Hello everyone, welcome to the Vishwashanti Darshan channel. The programming of the channel focuses on science, spirituality and peace. The channel is the brainchild of the Apostle of World Peace, Vishwadharmi Professor Dr Vishwanath Karad. We are lucky to have Dr Deepak Ranade. He is a consulting neurosurgeon. He has been contributing to the regular columns of the Times of India, The Speaking Tree. During my chat with him at the studios in VISHWARAJ BAUGH Loni, where he had come to see the world's largest peace dome, I posed 10 conversation points to him on his understanding of the domain of consciousness, which he says he is still understanding. So let's begin the tete-a-tete.
Hi, welcome to Vishwashanti Darshan channel. Dr Deepak Ranade has a great interest in reading about consciousness. Okay, in this point of conversation, doctor, I would like to ask you to let us know the importance of control and restraint. Because as you know, temper is a valuable possession. They say don't lose it. Why do you need breaks and commas in life? Don't you think that hampers the speed of the system? Please elaborate.
This is a very interesting topic. I can again give you the reference and the model or the paradigm of the human brain to explain this. You see, when we were studying medicine, we were taught of there being an upper motor neuron which begins from the brain and ends in the spinal cord, and a lower motor neuron that begins from that point to the nerve which supplies movement of the hand and the legs or whatever. Now, if there is an interruption of the upper motor neuron path, there is uncontrolled activity of my hands or the affected lower motor neuron, which causes spasticity or rigidity. You know, it's absolutely rigid, continuously contracting. So, if you look at evolution as a generic thing, instinct would say that I would like, for example, we have this switch over here, which is there for the button, right? What do you think is the primary function of that switch?
Control, to stop, to keep on, to off.
It is to keep off. Okay. Keeping on to hai.
Okay.
So the switch is meant to switch off the current. Otherwise it will continuously keep on going. It will be in overstimulation. So this restraint is actually, if you look at it from the evolutionary standpoint, restraint is something which is the attribute of man. You see, animals are totally guided by instinct. They are not ever they never have a dilemma of dieting, or they don't have the dilemma of not doing something. But man has been given this special attribute of saying that I have to restrain, I have to control. And it's like, you know, when they say that when you're climbing downhill on a ghat, it's always good to go in the second gear. You don't go in the fourth gear, because that restraint is what saves that vehicle from crashing down. I believe that. And if you look at, I would like to quote one very beautiful episode. When I was in my school, and there was this very famous athlete who had got the same 4 gold medals as Jesse Owens in the 1932 Berlin Olympics, Carl Lewis. So Carl Lewis was an extremely successful athlete, and he won the gold in those same 4 events: 100 meters, 4x100 meters, 200 meters and long jump, which Jesse Owens had won in the Berlin Olympics. And he was his childhood hero, so he said, I'm going to win the same 4 gold medals. And he did win those same 4 gold medals in the Moscow Olympics. After that, he became a celebrity, and they asked him that what is the reason of your success. He said 2 very beautiful things. One, he said, I could succeed in my life because I had mastered the art of self-denial. Okay. He said, when my colleagues, my friends were out on parties and pub hopping and going for I denied myself that. I controlled my urges to do that. And that mastering the art of self-denial was something that played a big role in my success. That's number one. And the other very interesting thing that he had at that time, the world record for long jump was some 8.32 meters held by Bob Beamon. And it was unbroken for the longest period of time. Carl Lewis was supposed to jump, had to jump for getting the gold medal, he had to cross 8.20 or something, which was way short of the world record. But his objective was to win the 4 golds. So his father used to be helping him to train. So what they had done was, he had kept a marker at 8.20, 8 meters and 20 centimeters. When he crosses that, he gets the gold and he can repeat the feat of his hero. So he did that. And then they asked him, do you have any regrets? Of course, you've told us the reason of your success, but do you have any regrets of anything that you would like to do better? He said, I wish my father had not kept that marker. So, it's like that. So, you knowing where to put restraint, to not control your mind, to not veer into those areas which are temptations and which can tend to deter you from your chosen path is equally important. And also to believe and have self-faith and self-belief that I can do anything and I don't need to have markers in life is also equally important to succeed.
Point number 10 and the last point. Terrorism is a form of cancer. Terrorism is like malignancy. Once few cell escapes and become autonomous, they continue to multiply. Destroying terrorists is like using cytotoxic drugs for cancer, which destroys the normal cells also. So, how do we escape from this collateral damage and control terrorism?
You see, I've been having a very long-term connection and I would say fascination for this very, very intriguing concept of cancer. Now, cancer, if one were to understand, most people would assume that it is some sort of a tumor or some sort of a growth of cells. But you see, if you analyze that our whole body as it functions, there is a process of cell differentiation. That means that our body begins as one cell, that is a zygote, and then 2 cells, 4 cells, 8 cells, 16, they keep multiplying. And for a large period of time, for up to let's say 2 to 3 weeks, they have a cell mass which have all the same type of cells. They have just multiplied very fast. But what happens there and what happens in malignancy? In malignancy, the cells multiply rapidly. But when the child is being born, there is a process of differentiation. Differentiation is whereby that program or the intelligence has already, which is there in the DNA, programs that these cells, okay, now they are given the function of becoming the kidney. These cells are now differentiating into the bone. This is going to be the brain. So that inherent intelligence of the body starts passing the allotment of work and saying that these cells will that process is called cell differentiation. So they are common cells to begin with, but then they differentiate and then they end up becoming only one particular type of cell. So the cell differentiation is a very disciplined kind of a self-regulatory process, which is what results in the human being being born. Because if you look at it, that the whole human being of so many cells, so many organs, so many things is starting from one common cell. So it is multiplying, and not just multiplying but it is differentiating.
Yes.
Now cancer, the problem is that these cells keep growing uncontrolled. There is no concept of differentiation. They are just multiplying and there is no one to control them. So we are presently using what are called as chemotherapeutic agents. So what chemotherapeutic agents do is that they try to cut the supply required for cell multiplication. So if you cut off the cell, the metabolic requirements for cell multiplication, automatically cells will not multiply. But in the process, cells which are normal body cells which also need to multiply, like our intestine, our hair, those get affected. That's why you see with chemotherapy and people lose hair and yeah. So the objective of writing this article and sharing these thoughts was that I always feel that even for that matter surgery or chemotherapy are actually the failure of medicine. Because when I have to use a knife to cut off something, it means that I have not got to the root of the problem. And you know, one very interesting thing, when we were doing, I operate on brain tumors, and we operate on a common type of malignant brain tumors called gliomas. Now, gliomas arise from the glial cells, which are the supportive matrix in which the neurons are there. We used to take a bit of that tissue and we used to send it to the National Center for Cell Sciences in the University of Pune. We had a tie-up with them. And they used to actually take those cells and keep them in a nutritional medium and then inject them into a petri dish.
Okay.
And Sharma Sahab, I have seen with my eyes those cells multiply massively outside the body. And then one cell becoming two cells is called as one passage. When there are 20 passages, that means the cells multiply 20 times successfully, then they can remain in the form of that controlled low temperatures, and the moment they get the appropriate condition, they'll continue to multiply. So that tumor which killed that man actually is living eternally, permanently. So I had got to thinking that, can we have a different viewpoint of looking at cancer? Can it be possible that the cancer is not just cells, it is actually another individual having an ego of its own, and that ego is so powerful that it says that I will kill you but I am going to survive. And this is just brainstorming which is happening. I am trying to work on this and try to analyze whether one can, because you know there's so much work in cancer going on right now, that I'm sure that the conventional modalities, and the same question about learning to unlearn. So if I can unlearn this thing to believe that cancer is, I've been biased to think that cancer is this. But what if cancer, that is a new human being taking place in taking birth in my own body, which is going to kill me, my own flesh and blood killing me. And what could be the cause of that? Could it be some kind of having a psychosomatic origin, some thought process which is wrong? They have come to some realization that stomach cancers are commonly seen in patients which are preceded having a great degree of anxiety or fear, and that causes people to have stomach cancers. So if I have to put this thought of learning to unlearn into practice, I do feel that the young minds who might be watching this program, if they can think out of the box and look at this, I would feel that perhaps the answer to cancer would not be chemotherapy or surgery, but it could be something that is far more benign and far more subtle, which will not do damage to the body. And
so how do you relate to the terrorism?
So that is exactly the point. If we try to use force, and it is like trying to use these kind of chemotherapy agents, we are killing normal people also, which is destroying them. And you see, I have had this experience that when I actually surgically remove a tumor, or I take only a bit of it, the remaining part of tumor which is there, it becomes severely swollen and it can kill the patient. We have seen this happening. So if you just tickle them or try to stimulate them, it is going to breed them even more. So that may not be the best way to tackle terrorism. So I am trying to draw an analogy between the prevailing treatment modalities for cancer as well as the prevailing modalities to deal with terrorism. We ought to go to something more fundamental, try to get to find a solution which is look out of the box.
So I'm not a doctor, but since you talked about this, I remember you making a program on gamma knife.
Yeah.
How effective it is in such surgeries? Does it also takes away the normal cells, or it's...
No, you see, gamma knife is a very highly specialized form of therapy, where they are when there's a small tumor which is less than 2 centimeters in the brain, what they do is that they have a very focused penetration of these gamma rays, which penetrate at a specific depth and at a very specific location. It's like when you hold a magnifying glass in the light
only read that part.
Only that much part is hit and killed.
So it has its limitations.
Yeah, but anything bigger than 2.5 centimeters you can't use gamma knife.
Okay, Doctor Sahab, thank you so much for taking out time for us, and I'm sure this is not the last program that I'm going to do with you. I'll be inviting you for programs, and also for the benefit of my viewers, all these questions, 10 questions which I have raised to him, is basically they are all available through, I think, your speaking tree.
Yeah, it's called the Inner Universe compilation.
So it's really interesting, and I thought you like the program. Do write to us and tell us the outcome of the whole thing. Thank you so much.
Thank you for inviting me, sir.